You are listening to an interview with clinical hypnotherapist Dr. Steve G. Jones. For a free hypnosis download, please visit stevegjones.com.
I'm Dr. Steve G. Jones. I'm here with my good friend Jason Augustus Newcomb.
Hi, Steve.
Hey, Jason. All right, we're on a road trip. We're going on Route 66 today, and we are in a car for hours and hours. So we thought, well, let's make good use of our time. Let's get some useful information out there. So Jason has written several books. One of them is the new Hermetics. Did I say that right?
You did. For the
wow.
First time
I finally said it right. And Jason's website is jasonaugustusnewcomb.com, by the way. He's written numerous books. The one we're going to talk about today in our car ride here on Route 66 in our convertible rental with the top not down. So you're going to hear a little bit of wind, but not as much as if we actually put the top down. And Jason, let's start out by defining Hermetics. What does that mean?
Well, Hermetics is an interesting word. I mean, obviously, there's a word that we still use called hermetic, which means hermetically sealed, which means sort of enclosed to the point where it's going to pop when it opens.
Okay.
Permanently sealed. So we can take the idea that hermetic in some way has something to do with secrecy or something like, or being closed off, but really it refers to Hermes, the Greek god of magic and communication, who in the ancient world was basically equated with the Egyptian god Thoth or Tahuti, who was an even more magical and divine being. And so there's really three definitions of Hermetics that apply to my book. One is the ancient world's Hermetics, which would have been the worship of the mind, that the mind of the universe is on some level at one with our mind. It's a very early version of what I think a lot of people believe nowadays, that the universe is a great consciousness that we're all a part of, and that when we open our minds, we become more connected with the greater consciousness of the universe. And that was the belief of the early Hermeticists, who are they had their writings were written by different people, but they usually gave the authorship of them to Hermes Trismegistus, which means thrice greatest Hermes. And supposedly the reason they use that term is because Hermes in ancient Greece was kind of a smart alecky god and a smart god, but he wasn't really a wisdom god. But they equated him with Thoth, who was definitely a wisdom god. So in order to show that they weren't just talking about regular boring Hermes, they said that it was thrice greatest Hermes who wrote those things, to more closely identify it with its original Thoth thing. But I mean, like I said, the real essence of it, you're making funny faces, so I feel like you're like, Jason, I have no idea what you're talking about.
No, I was making a funny face because as everyone knows, we're driving. Actually, Jason's driving. I'm holding the iPhone while we record, and Jason just came up on a car pretty full speed and hit the brakes at the last minute. That's why I was making the funny face. Not because of what you're saying. I'm just fearing for our lives here. But please continue.
I do apologize if I scared you.
No, it's quite all right. I was trying not to show it, but apparently
in trying not to, you looked like you were dying.
We survived.
Okay, so that's one aspect of Hermetics. Another aspect of Hermetics is the alchemical movement that took place in Europe, sort of throughout European history up until the scientific revolution, when all that sort of stuff kind of got pushed away. That was also called Hermetics, and it also incorporated aspects of magic, and that's the third aspect of Hermetics, which is sort of a philosophical magic that is designed to connect one with one's higher self and with the sort of invisible powers of the universe in such a way that one can become a more enlightened being. It's a sort of a yoga of the West, and not something that has been exceptionally popular, although it is mentioned in movies like The Secret and stuff like that. They do mention Hermetics and Hermeticism
by name
in those movies, yeah, for sure, as being like sort of the source of their where they're coming from, but then they don't further reference that or mention that people like me are out there.
Okay.
But
now we're going to talk about more of that kind of thing in our marketing podcast, because we're going to talk about how you can take ancient concepts and bring them into the present in a more presentable way that's more appealing to the masses.
Sure.
And Jason and I have talked about that kind of thing. So how you kind of bring marketing into this so that you get your message out to a larger group.
Well, just we won't get into it too much, but I do just want to mention that Hermes was the god of commerce, and so marketers are actually sort of connected with Hermeticism in some ways, because and hypnotists as well, because Hermes was the god of communication and influence through communication. So Hermetics really covers both of those topics as well. So you're a Hermeticist too, even though you don't realize it.
Well, I'm going to start telling everyone that.
Yeah. No,
what do you do? I'm a Hermeticist.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm going to tell you right now, it really goes over big. People love to hear that, because then they say, "What is that? What is a hermeticist?"
Oh, it's a good conversation piece.
It's like a good conversation starter,
like an odd piece
but
of
it's
art
often
in your home.
I think it's often a conversation ender too.
Gotta go now. Well, I'm stuck with you in a car for hours,
right? No,
so I can't go
trapped.
anywhere.
You're trapped.
Yep. So let's continue delving into this. So, is there more for us to understand about?
Well, what I'd like to know is what of what I said, what made any sense to you whatsoever?
Well, most of it actually did.
Yeah.
Well, earlier when we were talking about what we were going to talk about, we said that a lot of times people wonder if this has anything to do with worshiping Satan or anything like that.
Sure. Well, actually, it has absolutely nothing to do with that.
Okay, that'll
whatsoever.
be good for the listeners to hear.
Yeah,
most listeners, I imagine there may be one
there may be a few that are into that. Yeah, for sure. And certainly, I wouldn't exclude those people from being able to be a part of it. But
neither Jason nor I are into Satanism. Well, I'm not. Are you?
No.
Okay.
I'm not. No. I mean, I actually have quite a few friends that are really interested in
Really?
Satanism and stuff, and I'm not. You know, I'm not opposed to them or anything like that, but it's just not what I'm into.
That would be fascinating to interview them as well.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting group. Largely, I don't want to get too much into Satanism, but largely, like, actual people who call themselves Satanists are largely just atheists who believe that you should just do whatever the hell you want. That's why I'm the bad boy of the self-help movements, because I have friends who are Satanists.
Oh, that is pretty bad. That kind of scares me a little bit. It's like knowing people in the mafia or something.
Right, no, it kind of is.
What do Satanists do? I mean, what do they probably put spells on people?
Well, I would say pretty rarely.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
I would say the more people who put spells on people are people who are sort of like spell creating people, like hoodooists and some hoodooists or
Wow.
hoodoo workers.
Okay.
Spiritual workers. A lot of people who are actually Christians put spells on people.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
It's a crazy world out there. But yeah, I mean, I think there probably are some Satanists who put spells on people, but they also consider themselves to be magicians. But I don't think that calling yourself a Satanist necessarily means that you're going to be casting spells.
Okay. Well, we actually got in a little sidetrack.
Yeah,
with
we
the
can
Satan
edit
thing.
this whole Satan thing out.
No, I think it's great. I think, hey, people want to know. You said that's a question that people often have.
Sure, no, it is, and honestly, Hermeticism has little to do with anything other than maybe Kabbalah would be a good place that Hermeticism kind of intersects with. Alchemy is a good place that Hermeticism intersects with. All of which were conducted by people who were religious theologians and stuff back in the day. We kind of try to simplify things and pigeonhole things a little bit more, I think, today than people used to. And so there have always been people who do things outside the norm, that are thinking in different ways, and Hermeticism is really those people.
It's all
that
of them?
that are thinking as well. No, but I mean, it is a kind of an umbrella that can
So-
blanket hold them.
So to be a hermeticist is to be someone thinking outside the norm, but to be someone who's thinking outside the norm is not necessarily to be a hermeticist.
I think we're getting a little lost, but sure, I'll go with that.
I'm getting the road hypnosis.
You are listening to an interview with clinical hypnotherapist Dr. Steve G. Jones. For a free hypnosis download, please visit stevegjones.com.
No, Hermeticism really specifically refers to that movement from the beginning of the Common Era, back right around the time of Christ. There was a movement in Egypt of sort of gnosis and connecting with the universal mind directly.
Now you said gnosis. How do you define gnosis?
Gnosis means knowing, and it's the opposite of agnosticism, or agnosis. It is people who know the divine, people who experience it directly, people who open up their consciousness to what is beyond the physical and experience it. So gnosis really refers to an even broader thing than Hermeticism. I mean, realistically speaking, anyone who calls himself a medium or anyone who calls himself a psychic or all those people are experiencing some level of gnosis because they're directly experiencing something that is beyond. They're having knowledge of the divine world in some way.
And do you spell gnosis in this sense with a G?
Yes.
Gnosis.
That's correct.
Okay.
And their Gnosticism was sort of one of the early versions of Christianity that didn't work out. That kind of got squished
Because it just wasn't very popular?
No. Actually, quite a lot of people adhered to it. I don't think that it was as suitable to be a world religion. Now we're getting into some dangerous territory here, but a Roman emperor basically created Christianity as we know it by having a council in which they decided what was cool and what was not cool. And his idea was Christians are willing to get themselves eaten by lions, so that sounds like a population I can deal with. Let's go to Christianity.
Are you paraphrasing, or is that a direct quote?
That's an exact quote.
Okay.
I mean, translated.
Because when people start emailing about this, I want to be able to tell them that Jason Augustus Newcomb said that the emperor the Emperor of Rome said
Clement. I believe.
Okay.
We might need to edit that out, but
if we edit everything we need to edit out.
Yeah, I mean that'd be tough.
It's gonna be a 1 minute podcast.
Yeah, you're right. We're gonna have to just go with it.
That's right.
It was
traffic slowing down.
I see.
Okay,
I got my foot on the brake.
All right.
We're driving right now.
I'm the backseat driver in the side seat.
I just made you nervous. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. The whole thing kind of, I'm one of those people. I think you said your wife's that way. Oh,
yes, very much.
Can we say that?
Yeah.
Do we have to edit that out?
No.
She likes to.
She's definitely a backseat driver.
Command from not behind the wheel.
Yes.
Okay. Okie doke. So what else?
So back to what we were.
Yes.
Just to tie up what we were just talking about a second ago, before the traffic got a little tighter here, and you got nervous that I was misquoting a Roman emperor from.
No, it's an exact quote. You told me.
Right, no, it is, absolutely.
Fine with it. What did he say again? He said, any people who will be eaten by lions.
Christians are willing to be eaten by lions.
Okay.
And so that sounds like a population that it would be extremely easy for me to deal with as a ruler. So let's all become Christians. That's basically a direct quote.
People Googling that right now.
Yeah, go ahead and Google it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's worth it.
I would, but I have no reception because we're in the middle
of the desert. Yeah. But I mean, in truth, there were books that were a part of a lot of people's spiritual lives that were pulled out of Christian scripture, and then other books were put in, and there were definitely people on that council who believed that some beliefs should have been in it, but they were outvoted, and that's the Christianity that ended up being the world religion, till today.
Well, having been a preacher myself for the Church of Christ for 5 years, not the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but a different Church of Christ.
I'm making you uncomfortable, huh?
No. I was a preacher from 1990 to 1995, so I'm no longer involved in that. But I am aware of the controversy concerning that and the origin and what's in the canon, meaning the actual books, and what's not. So that is actually correct. One of
the books that I've recently been done is a translation of something called the Gospel of Thomas, which is actually a saying source. It doesn't have a full narrative in it, but it's actually a bunch of sayings from Jesus, and it's a fascinating book because they're extremely similar to a lot of the things in Matthew and Luke and Mark, but just different enough that they're pretty. It's interesting to see how different people kind of interpreted that stuff, and I can't say which is more correctly the correct teachings of Jesus or anything, but it's
you don't have any quotes from Jesus that we don't otherwise know about?
I can't think of a good one. I mean, what ends up falling away is all of the stuff about worrying about the future and worrying about whether you're going to fry in hell and that sort. Like none of that is in there. It's all very imminent. It's all very right now. You got to do this, not because you're going to fry in hell if you don't, but because it's just this is going to introduce you to a greater knowledge.
And that, as you know, and as listeners may know, is also controversial because obviously the church does not really believe what you were saying now.
No, and I'm not trying to
I'm not representing the church. I'm just
No, I hear you. No, I'm not trying to say that anyone's beliefs are right or wrong. I think it's an interesting look at history. Do we need to do something?
Yeah, you have to roll down your window. We're at an inspection point. Thank you. You too. Thank you. All right.
Saw that we're in a very little car and that we're probably not smuggling people into the the U.S. or whatever.
He saw that I'm interviewing you, and he didn't want to be interviewed himself.
Because that might have happened.
Yes. So I think we are at a good wrap-up point for this podcast. Is there anything?
And I want to apologize to all my Christian friends for upsetting them.
All your Christian friends, anyone who may.
And all my Satanist friends who are also upset with me. So
I think you kind of brought Satanism to light a little bit and didn't really say anything too bad about them. I mean, most people would say things about them. I mean, even if they didn't know about them. I've never met anyone who
claimed to be a Satanist.
Yeah, I mean, it's just probably not a popular thing to say. Maybe I met them and they just didn't say it.
Probably not. No.
Yeah, I'd run
if they saw that you were also wearing some sort of.
Like a pentagram or something like that.
They might have, yeah.
Are you a Satanist? No. My friend Jason Augustus Newcomb gave me this. He told me it would be fun to wear at parties. All right. Anything else you want to leave us with about Hermetics?
I don't know. I feel like I've self-assassinated my character here, but that's all right.
Hey,
it's all in good fun.
That's what happens on Route 66. We get our kicks.
Well, people who are interested in learning more about what I actually do can go to my website, JasonAugustusNewcomb.com.
No Satanism. I imagine no Christianity either.
Well, I mean, there's that Gospel of Thomas thing.
The Gospel of Thomas.
I actually wrote a book. About Jesus.
You wrote a book about Jesus?
Yeah, it's called How the Teachings of Jesus Could Save America.
Okay.
And it's actually about, just taking a look at what Jesus actually said and seeing how that would be an awfully nice world to live in.
Okay. That's a nice thought, yeah. I think a lot of Christians would actually agree with that.
Sure. And my site is JasonAugustusNewcomb.com, and if you go there in the next, 7 or 8 months...
Oh, I think it's 8 minutes. 7 or 8 minutes.
Yeah, I probably should, right? We're going to talk about that later.
Keep in mind that this is going to be an evergreen thing. This is going to be on the internet for the next
10,000 years.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but if it's within the next 1 year or so, you can get a 30% discount on my site.
Meaning if it's by what date?
January 1st, 2017.
Okay, so if you're listening to this in 2028, for example...
Yeah, it's over.
You missed it.
But you can still, even though I'm dead, my children are still running the site, and they
need your money.
That you can go and download things from there too. So that site's JasonAugustusNewcomb.com, and if you use the code Steve G Jones, all in capital letters,
you gotta shout it.
Steve G Jones in capital letters.
Perfect.
You can get a 30% discount.
Oh, I think it charged more if you use it.
Maybe.
There's a penalty.
We'll see. Type it in and see what happens.
See what happens. See if you get a computer virus if you type that in.
Don't say that.
No, don't say that. We'll edit
But you
that
should
out.
go there. And,
we actually won't edit that out.
Steve actually loves all my stuff and uses it all the time. That's how he's become such an amazing person.
Jason's the secret to my success.
So you should go there.
Jason actually did help me.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about that in a different podcast. We're going to talk about our marketing podcast, but he actually did help me in marketing concepts early on, because Jason is just a fountain of marketing ideas. And I took a few of them and ran for a field goal with them. Field goal? No, I ran for a touchdown.
No, you ran for a field goal. You ran for a Super Bowl game played over and over again.
Well, yes.
I mean, you've gone so far past where I went with that stuff.
Well, we're going to give credit where credit is due in a future podcast.
All right.
Meaning in about 10 minutes from now.
After we stop here for a bit.
As it were, a ghost town road.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds promising.
Sounds like a place the Satanists are probably gathering. Not that there's anything wrong with that, as Seinfeld would say. All right. Thank you, Jason Augustus Newcomb. Available at jasonaugustusnewcomb.com. You will not get a virus by downloading anything or typing anything.
You will get some excellent products if you go there.
Yes, you will. Jason is a good man. As you can tell, he has a lot of information. He just wants to help, so check it out. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
You are listening to an interview with clinical hypnotherapist Dr. Steve G. Jones. For a free hypnosis download, please visit stevegjones.com.